Hey guys, Tonic here. The Pitt Expedition was announced a few months ago back at E3 2021, and since then we have gotten some information from interviews, and we have also even gotten some in-game hints about this future DLC. So in this video, I'd like to take a look at everything we know so far about the Pitt Expedition. Let's start with the Fanatics that are supposedly living in the Pit. During the quest Missing Persons, you are tasked with helping the Raider War Party find some of its missing members. Throughout this quest, you come across a new enemy faction called the Hellcats, and during an idle dialogue, you can hear them say this.
This sure is better than dealing with the Fanatics at the Pit.
This small piece of dialogue gives us a lot to think about. Firstly, the Fanatics must have been a pretty strong group if the Hellcats think Appalachia is a much better place than dealing with the Fanatics in the Pit, and also this means that we might even see the Hellcats in the Pit. Maybe they still have units there dealing with them, or maybe even in the trailer the Vertibird pilot and bodies could be Hellcat mercs, but at this point it is all just speculation, so let's move on. Next up, we have some information from a roundtable interview with the developers about Steel Rain. In this interview, the old project lead Jeff Gardner said, "We decided on the Pit because it's local to West Virginia and it's a great narrative location. The designers have thought long and hard about how to make content that is both fun and repeatable. The Pit has got really unique mechanics, a really cool story, and repeatable content, so players can enjoy it more than once." Also in that same interview, we got a bit of information from Mark Tucker, the design director for 76. He said, "It's a tricky balance because our game is really unique. We have got a split in our player base. We have those who play almost completely in teams, and we have players who never join teams. So we have to make sure that we are providing great options for both." Now, the most interesting thing to me from these statements is how they talk about its replayability. Will this be something like Daily Ops or a dungeon where we just have a pretty basic objective that we can keep completing over and over again for some rewards? Or will this be like a standard Fallout DLC where it has different endings and situations that we can play through a few times? Personally, I do hope that it's more like the standard story DLC and not a very big daily op. The main thing that is giving me hope for that is the quote, "The Pit has got really unique mechanics, a really cool story, and repeatable content." So maybe we both get a daily repeatable thing and a very big story to finish. I think that would be the best possible situation, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. Now, when it comes to the new map being added, we don't really know too much about it yet, besides the fact that it's in the Pit. It's unclear if we are going to be visiting the same locations in the city that we saw in Fallout 3, places like the Mill, the Steel Yard, and Uptown, or if we're going to be visiting an entirely new part of the city that we haven't seen yet. But we do actually have a bit of information on the current state of the city being around 170 years-ish before the events of Fallout 3. This comes from Bethesda's own website article on the Pit. It reads, "This expedition takes players to the irradiated ruins of Pittsburgh, now known far and wide as simply the Pit. First introduced to players in Fallout 3, the devastated Pennsylvanian city has become dominated by mutated monstrosities and other threats. See what opportunities and dangers await in this new locale when this expedition embarks for Fallout 76 in 2022. This description specifically mentions the irradiated ruins of Pittsburgh, so it's safe to assume that there's going to be very high levels of radiation in this area, and even in the trailer we can hear radiation levels rising on a Geiger counter. Now, we do know in the lore that the Pit was not directly hit by any nukes, but it is still one of the most hostile environments to human life. The nearby rivers are extremely irradiated, and it mixed with the pollution from the steel mills creating just a very deadly atmosphere. So could this be one of the big unique gameplay mechanics of the Pit that was mentioned in that interview from earlier? Maybe some areas are going to be extremely irradiated and there's not really going to be much of a way to get through them without using some type of suit or just using a ton of Radaway and Rad-X. I'm not too sure, but it definitely could be really cool to try and tiptoe your way around big radiation pockets in the Pit. And lastly, the Pit is going to be the first of many expeditions. The devs have said that they are planning to visit more locations in the future, and the Pit is just going to be the first one. And in the game files even a while ago, there was actually an unfinished area that looked a lot like the Capital Wasteland. So hopefully later in the future we can get back to visit DC, as well as some other pretty cool locations. I am so stoked for this to come out. The Pit was one of my favorite Fallout 3 DLCs. I still remember playing it for the first time back around 2011. I was about 13 years old, and I remember just being horrified. The Pit in Fallout 3 had a very dark tone. You had slaves getting beat and forced to work in the mills, you had sick people dying, the mutant trogs, the moral issue of stealing Asher's child. It was honestly a really dark DLC. I vividly remember being way too scared to go into the steel yard to go collect those ingots, and I would actually turn around from the TV and I would force my older brother to play that part for me. Then when he got some ingots and went back, I would take the controller back and keep going. The trogs just really freaked me out when I was young. They would run along rooftops, they would jump on top of train cars, they would jump at you. It was honestly a really cool enemy, but they were just really scary as a kid. Also, I'm really hoping that we can get our hands on the auto axe weapon. That was one of the coolest weapons in Fallout 3, and I would really like to get a nice legendary auto axe and run around with that in Fallout 76, but hopefully they can recapture some of that dark tone with this expedition. The E3 trailer seems to give that kind of feeling off. It has that gritty, dark, almost horror feeling to it, so I'm very excited for it, and I just cannot wait to re-explore the pit before the events of Fallout 3. But that is pretty much going to be it for this video, so I would like to say thank you for stopping by and watching, and as always, I would like to give a massive thank you to all of the channel members: Yozovated, Anxiety Rangers, Playmaker, Kevin W, Shaky Hands Workshop, Anna S, Fallout McFly, Network Gate, Golty, Indica, Robert Kennard, Wandering Wastelander, Esdeath93, Lanthar, Anna Reestes, Captain Awesome, Citizen Girl, Heather Henderson, Patrick Ruda, 23 Icefire, Jay Smith, Argent Deer, Browser Double Frang, Ice Cream Manny, Chris Decker, Theodore, Digital Aardvark, Christy Mellon Schwitz. You guys are amazing. I love you guys, and have a great day.